tomu půl minuty.
I wish you a nice morning again. Welcome. This is the second day of H2 Forum of the region of Ústí, Opportunity for Transformation. I would like to greet the spectators that are watching us online on the stream e15.cz. I would like to greet the Minister of Industry and Trade, Josef Sikela, who came to see us today. The topics today are just as important as the topics from yesterday. Yesterday we talked about the framework of obstacles and barriers of H2 management that hinder the development of this area. We want to prepare for the scaling of hydrogen management that is related to the development of hydrogen strategy in Europe. Today is a great opportunity to follow up on yesterday's topic and talk about overcoming those barriers, what we could do to overcome them. Let's take a look at experiences from various regions and maybe focus on individual workshops and see what the others do about hydrogen and how they are coping with it. Just a few things regarding the organization of today. Please use the Wi-Fi. The signal is weak. The name is conference and the password is uyeb, just small letters. And please use also the app Slido 4092216 to ask questions. Just 1 minute, I wasn't sure about the number code. It's 4092216, yes. So please enter this code and ask questions. Your questions and comments will be addressed to the speakers during the discussions. We will be very grateful if you can contribute with your questions. We will answer them, of course. I would also like to thank the partners that helped organize today's conference. That's the University in Ústí nad Labem, who's the partner of this event, the Commercial Chamber, Czech Invest, Economic Social Council of the Ústí region, Economic Chamber of the Ústí region. And one tiny thing as well, when you go outside, when you leave the building, you can still see a car standing there. It is a part of the fair, which is called Future of Opportunities. You can find the stands in the lobby, where you can take a look at research results of universities and private companies. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start the next block, I would like to welcome Eva Dvořáková, the councillor of the Ústí region, to say a few opening words. Please join us, Eva. Dear Minister, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to welcome you on behalf of the Ústí region at today's H2 Forum. We organize a business forum every year, but today we use this opportunity to strengthen the topic of hydrogen, which is being very visible at this moment, especially during the presidency of the Czech Republic in the Council of European Union. Thank you, Minister, for being able to organize this first hydrogen forum. Let's hope that we are going to meet every year, either in our region or in other regions of the Czech Republic. This forum is intended especially for entrepreneurs, and I would like to introduce briefly what I found as inspiration from yesterday. I think that in the municipality management, we can take several steps. In the first stage, we are going to support hydrogen management with the Just Transition Fund. I think this is a very interesting topic, and I think the region of Ústí deserves support. I see a great opportunity to support community energy sector, especially the preparation of projects, various studies, from the Fund of Just Transition, but also from the funding of the region. Education is another topic for us, and I'm reaching out my helping hand because we want to cooperate with institutions in the region of Ústí that provide education. And the last inspiration we got from the Moravian Silesian region, and of course we are always for hydrogen. I agree with that. Thank you.
Tak děkuji moc. Ivě za krátké úvodní slovo.
Thank you very much, Eva, for the opening words. And without further delay, I would like to welcome the Minister of Industry and Trade, that's Mr. Josef Sikela. Please join us on stage. The clicker is here. I wish you a beautiful morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is a bit uncommon for me, to be here on such a stage. I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to speak at this hydrogen forum, to see the representatives of regions, industry, state administration and other organizations, to discuss the possibilities of development of hydrogen management and its impact on our industry and economy. I hope that this is the first event that's going to start a series of events, and that we will be able to meet again in other regions with proactive approach to hydrogen. Ústí nad Labem is a city, and I firmly believe that the locals know this much better than I do. It is a city which is connected, probably most of all the cities in the Czech Republic, with the long history of hydrogen in the Czech Republic. The chemistry in Ústí produced hydrogen 100 years ago. Today it is called Purkyně. It provided hydrogen for fat hardening, and hydrogen from Ústí had its place in science. The Austrian scientist Victor Hess had a balloon filled with hydrogen and got this balloon so high that cosmic light was discovered, radiation was discovered, and he received a Nobel Prize in 1936. At that time in Vienna, only a different type of gas was used to fill balloons in Vienna. That is why this researcher had to go to Ústí, and without Ústí, Hess would never get his Nobel Prize. Spolchemie produces 2.2 million tons of hydrogen a year with low emission energy from nuclear power plants. Nowadays, and this causes one of the problems when we see whether we deal with strategic things or urgent things, we have to decide. And next to hydrogen, which we of course don't forget, we need to tackle natural gas. It became the priority of the Czech presidency whether we want it or not. We want to provide sufficient supplies of natural gas for this winter, not only for Czech households and Czech industry, but also for the households and industry in Europe. And by joint effort, we were able to reach very good results, and the energy tanks are filled by more than 80% throughout Europe. The dependence on import of Russian gas in this autumn consumption was reduced to only 8% compared to almost 40% in the same time of last year. This is a great success. But of course, to replace 152 billion of cubic meters of Russian gas that were imported shortly to Europe, this is a huge task that we have to deal with. And of course, those 8%, this is an average number, and the dependence throughout European Union, dependence on Russian gas is very volatile, is not always even, including the Czech Republic, of course. Now, in the Czech Republic, there is almost no Russian gas coming to us because due to Nord Stream 1 shortage, we were able to fill up our tanks with Norwegian and LNG gas from various sources. However, what is important is that the sales of Russian gas in Europe are being phased out, and the supplies of natural gas, well, they still remain an important topic for us today, but being prepared for this winter doesn't mean that we will be just as ready next year. And this gap of 152 billion cubic meters of gas is something that's going to be still a difficulty or challenge for the next year. We want to construct LNG terminals as soon as possible and involve strategic partners to increase the production of liquid natural gas. But still, short-term plans and urgent plans are one thing, and we should not forget our long-term objectives. And of course, hydrogen is obviously a tool that helps us not only to reduce CO2 emissions, but it can also serve as a support of the entire tech industry. It can help us modernize the energy sector. Industry in the Czech Republic, just as in other European countries, will need to develop further and therefore will need a lot of energy. And of course, we are entering this energy transition with many disadvantages due to historic reasons that reach to the very beginnings of the industry in our country. We were the most industrial country in the world at the time, with a high share of processing industry, probably in the world, which is very energy consuming. We are punished for neglecting the development of renewable energy sources in the past years. Now we have to face it. We also neglected the development of hydrogen. When we take a look at the years 2019 to 2021, we see that the share of renewable energy sources in the energy mix, or let's say the amount of electricity from renewable sources, was going down, whereas in Poland, in the same time, the increase of renewable energy sources increased by 50% and in Slovakia by 30%. Yesterday we started a race in which we want to catch up with this gap between us and other countries. And the government approved a directive because, of course, we want to accelerate the entire procedure. And yesterday we approved the Energy Act that enables a faster development of renewable energy sources and their involvement in the industry. For example, photovoltaic panels for own production. And we increased the capacity of photovoltaic panels from 10 to 50 kilowatt. And we introduced a simplified approval proceedings for photovoltaic panels up to 50 kilowatt. Another act should deal with the community energy sector, where we are going to define energy community, energy sharing will be introduced, and many other new things which are common in Western Europe and which should help us in the future when we want to develop renewable energy sources even more. I talked about energy demanding processes. We tend to forget that we use up energy because it used to be cheap, and all of a sudden we have to face a certain discomfort. And when I should exaggerate it, I think we are facing a situation that hasn't been here since the Second World War. And we see that it might happen that a source of energy, for example natural gas, could be unavailable regardless of how much you are going to pay for it or you would be willing to pay for it. And this is a trend that we haven't seen in the long term. This is something that really caught us by surprise. And our Czech households are being heated by 20% more than it's the average compared to other countries with the same climate. And when we talk about energy consumption per square meter and the consumption to heat a square meter in our households, we are the third last ranking country in Europe. And when you take a look at the climate and compare it to Northern Europe, to Scandinavia, to be almost the last in the consumption per square meter per household is something that we really have to consider for the future, whether it is worth changing or not. Then, of course, our industry uses up a lot of energy as well due to its structure. And again, we are also used to producing for cheap energy. And per 1 unit of GDP, we use up twice as much energy compared to the European average, European Union average specifically. And it's 1.3 times more than in Slovakia. So regarding the consumption per 1 crown of GDP, we are the last but one country, or maybe the third last country perhaps. Only Bulgaria is worse off, and maybe even Malta.
Industrial countries like the Czech Republic or Germany, it's impossible to cover all energy needs only from domestic renewable energy sources. Even if we are energetically self-sufficient, because we decided that our future energy mix should include not only the cheapest energy source, renewable sources, but also a stable source where there is no condition of weather and climatic conditions, and that is not dependent on the transportation of fossil fuels, is nuclear energy. Despite this fact, some energy will have to be imported. This is what we do with oil and natural gas. Energy in the form of hydrogen will also need to be imported. We need to import hydrogen from countries that have an excessive amount of renewable sources and that can produce hydrogen much cheaper and in large volumes. It is a great advantage that in the world there are quite a lot of locations that can export hydrogen than those that extract natural gas. But Europe should be careful about one thing. If you look at the plans of hydrogen use and hydrogen production, we might face two phenomena. One of them is that by 2050, Europe will not become self-sufficient in hydrogen production and it will have to import it. And second, thanks to production of green hydrogen, we might face a decrease of the amount of cheap energy because some countries will start exporting this energy. These are countries that will use renewable energy sources for hydrogen production primarily. And if we look at these phenomena, we should be careful not to replace one dependence on certain source of energy with another dependence on the import of another energy source from an unstable region. The disadvantage of hydrogen is that the price of renewable hydrogen remains to be much higher than the price of natural gas at the European level. We will have to closely cooperate to be able to build a global hydrogen market. But we should adopt very clear, transparent rules, and I am going to insist on this at European level. We can support transparent market with hydrogen that will help reduce the prices for end users. The reduction of price of green hydrogen is one of the main challenges for us. As I have already said, the price difference compared to natural gas is still very high, and the key and the solution for reducing the price of hydrogen is the technologies, because the price is based mainly on depreciation of the production facilities. We therefore have to focus on development of new technologies, new materials, and on improving the entire production process. The European Union will have to build infrastructure for transportation of large volumes of hydrogen from the production locations and also from the ports to the places of use. The so-called European hydrogen backbone is an important prerequisite for an efficient use of hydrogen in all member countries, regardless of their geographical location. But again, we have to remain practical in this aspect. On the 24th of February this year, the world changed. Mainly the energy world changed, but what also changed was security, energy security, and the world will never be the same anymore. And we have to build many connections, we will have to build many facilities that will help us use fossil fuels and liquid natural gas. With hydrogen, we open new visions, and we may consider to what extent we can phase out the traditional sources. I don't think that we can afford this because the price and the availability are still relevant. And we will probably have to review certain plans. And we will have to use a dual approach when handling energy. When fulfilling our Czech hydrogen strategy, we want to mainly use hydrogen in transport. We would also like to reduce the costs of hydrogen production. We would like to implement integrated projects. Only by merging production and use in one place, we can ensure optimal use of investments. I'm glad that the Ústí region discusses this type of projects. Locally produced hydrogen will be used to drive buses and trains. One of the interests of the Czech Republic are changes in EU taxonomy, especially with regard to the use of hydrogen produced from nuclear energy, and also the use of the energy derivatives from nuclear energy. We want these to be classified as projects that are within the EU taxonomy considered to be produced from low carbon energy. I'm sure that the results of your forum will be very valuable, and I believe that we will manage to make a progress in implementing our Czech hydrogen strategy. Thank you very much for your attention, and I've been told that I'm supposed to sit on one of the chairs now. Thank you very much. We are now going to have a moderated discussion with other guests. I'm going to welcome other guests now. It's Petr Mervar, Plenipotentiary of the Ministry of Industry and Trade for Hydrogen Technologies, Eva Dvořáková, Councillor of the Ústí region, Vladimír Zemánek, Chairman of the Regional Chamber of Commerce Ústí region, Patrik Petzinger, Councillor of the Karlovy Vary region, and Jakub Unucka, First Deputy Governor from the Moravian and Silesian region. Let's show the slides and we can start. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, you can ask or you can send us the questions, and we will open the discussion. Minister, we had the first day of our forum yesterday, and we tried to summarize the content of yesterday's forum on these slides. We agreed what the main barriers to hydrogen economy are. I would like to follow up on your introductory presentation, and let me inform you about these items. We divided them into several categories. First, too strict conditions of the EU for the production of renewable hydrogen and its use in transport and industry. Can the Czech presidency help us in this area? Can we rely on European legislation when it comes to investments into technologies? How can we know which kind of hydrogen will be supported and which not? I would like to ask about how you perceive these areas, because you travel a lot to Brussels. We need certainty in hydrogen economy. Do you think that these certainties could be provided during our presidency? And then I would like to give the floor to others as well. The mic should not be lit up, then it will work. My media consultants tell me that I should be brief when answering questions, but I'm not sure whether I can provide a simple answer to this question. This is a broad area, and I outlined some of the issues in my opening remarks. We have a local deficit, and we neglected many areas in the past. I'll be happy to go through them with you. This is not to criticize the political opposition, of course. But we didn't manage the COVID pandemic well, and the previous government made major mistakes. For example, the National Development Plan, 200 billion Czech crowns could be used for modernization of this country, but they were divided into 240 different chapters. No other country had so much fragmented strategy in using the money. It seems that everyone got some money and the result will be nothing. So we neglected quite a lot of areas in the area of energy strategy. What I am handling now are infringements by the European Union because we were unable to transpose the European legislation in our own Czech legislation. So instead of focusing on the strategic decisions, we still try to catch up on what should have been done already. And we try to be as fast as possible. The second thing, which may seem paradoxical, is that you can find something positive even in negative things. And the European Union and the European Commission had to realize many mistakes done in the past. When I said time matters, I really did mean it. From business, I'm used to move things forward. My advantage is that I'm a president of 10 chambers, and I'm also responsible for internal market and telecommunications. And on the one side, you have measures for protection of the markets to ensure self-sufficiency, but at the same time, you have to conclude agreements on free trade with new regions. And the advantage is that you can look at all these issues from the strategic point of view of the entire Europe. But what is more important is that Europe needs to realize several things. One of them is that you should not rely on unstable regions. You also don't have to waste energy. We don't have too much time left. And the decision whether the same pipeline can be used to transport natural gas or hydrogen is becoming more and more relevant. And I believe this has improved also thanks to our presidencies. We took over the presidency on the 1st of July, and on the 1st of October, it will be 3 months of our presidency, so this will be 1/2 of our presidency. And I heard small country, big presidency, so we managed to move things forward, and I can feel some shift in the mindset and in the thinking of the European Commission, because they are much more willing to change things faster, and this also applies to the area of hydrogen. Do you believe that there will be a positive change? Yes, I do believe that there will be a positive change because we have run out of time. During the previous presidency, we could afford, I'm not going to say who the presidency country was, you can look it up, but we could afford that the presiding country was not willing to enter into a new free trade agreement with Chile. Someone might think, why should we enter into such an agreement with Chile? And I say because they have 72% of the world's reserves of lithium. And without lithium, the entire Green Deal and electromobility will be under great pressure. And in between, there is a different political representation in Chile. And these are mistakes that we can no longer afford in future because we have no time. And if we don't go there, it will be assertive China that will go there. China is very active in the Indian and Pacific region, or Russia will also want to protect its interests in Africa. This is also linked to the import of green hydrogen from various locations.
Jakub, you have the floor. The minister said something really beautiful. We should not rely on unreliable regimes, and we can't even rely on unreliable weather. We can't rely on sun and wind. We need to have other alternative energy sources, and that is why we introduced this color scale. Because if we should only rely on green hydrogen, we can stop right here because we won't get anywhere. I might have a practical point of view on the entire matter. You defined some topics yesterday, and I think that we miss this pioneer spirit. We are choking on our legislation, choking on the regulations. People who are motivated and who feel like doing something about this issue, they become disgusted very quickly. When we have the Czech legislation on the list, as a list of barriers that we listed yesterday, it should be there. And we heard some experience from our partners in the region of Karlovy Vary. And we should let it breathe, in fact. We should let them decide for themselves, use their own finance. Of course, we should support them financially, and we can do that as the region of Ústí, but we should not bind their hands right at the beginning. We are hindering the development. I'm not quite sure if the industry needs this freedom at this time. The industry needs support and funding, especially. I think they are willing, the people from the industry are willing to trade their freedom of decision-making for financial support. Well, on the 24th of February, it all started. I call it Day D. So it's been 7 months until now. And what have we done regarding energy security so far? What have we done during those 7 months regarding energy legislation? We managed to do more than in the previous 7 years in the past 7 months. And I think we should be grateful for that. We needed to face a crisis, but we realized we needed to change many things, and we need to change them quickly. Maybe someone else would be able to change those things even faster, and maybe involve some other legislation on the level of European level. But it takes time, even though we can be fast. The European Regulation Agency, before the Special Energy Council, said that there are no interventions necessary, and after not even 20 days, they are saying now that we need to take significant steps to change energy sector, and much faster than we considered before. And this is a rapid change that happened within a month, or not even a month. Now, of course, we are primarily dealing with heating, energy sources due to various reasons. But then the future will come. We have to deal with the future, and hydrogen is the future. I firmly believe that the events that are very unfortunate, that are happening at this moment, I think that Europe is going to change its approach significantly when it comes to energy security in the future, including hydrogen development. I would like to pass the floor to Eva as well, and Vladimir. Well, only shortly for the region of Ústí. We were perceived as the assembly line, and nowadays we are perceived just as a storage site. And for us, for our region, hydrogen is an opportunity. I would like to ask for your support for grey hydrogen, which is a byproduct, in fact, of waste treatment or waste management. And thanks to grey hydrogen, we can start our economy and follow up with other colors of hydrogen as well. I would like to ask for your support for this grey hydrogen, at least for a transitory period. Well, if I may, for the commercial chamber, of course, we focus on hydrogen because we want to find new opportunities for our members. And the region of Ústí is really being serious about hydrogen management, or has been since the year 2017 already. This is also defined in our hydrogen strategy that we published in April of this year. Nowadays, we already have specific projects that are already on the table. You mentioned the transportation company in the region of Ústí, but now we are facing the limitations that can't be dealt with by regions. We are talking about the hydrogen colors, and this is really clear. It's a problem in the region of Ústí, and I think it's not necessary. If we could really consider this issue generously and we wouldn't be too strict about hydrogen colors, it would help us a lot. However, I think that we should already start to make pressure on central authorities, especially in Brussels. Because nowadays we are dependent on fossil fuels. We are the most dependent country, or the most dependent on fossil fuels. Hydrogen could be a solution for the future, but when it is not the solution, it can just help the diversification of energy sources. And I think two rules are quite important for us. The first one is that European hydrogen legislation supports maritime countries. They have sea power plants, water power plants, and wind power plants. It's in the south, for example, Spain, with a lot of sun, and we are a Central European country without sea. So, according to the existing legislation, we are unable to import green energy from the Baltic countries, for example, 100 megawatt. We would like to use the lines to import green energy. We would like to set up PPA contracts, but the legislation does not enable us to do that. And then the second point, green energy sources. If we should only rely on the sun, which can shine 3 hours a day, it wouldn't really help us. We would need capital investments. And unfortunately, wind in the Czech Republic, well, we are lagging behind in the investment in wind energy power plants. This is at the level of 380 megawatt in the Czech Republic, and in Vienna the situation is completely different. So I think there is still a lot to catch up with. Well, maybe I would like to conclude with an optimistic statement. Of course, everything that has been said here is true, and we are working on this. However, the production of hydrogen is quite problematic in the Czech Republic. We are looking for a way how to find the least negative of the solutions. However, we need to work with the existing technologies, but on the other hand, we are coping quite well. I presented it yesterday. We saw several companies, and we saw also that we can produce membranes for fuel cells, and we could be actually one of the first production sites in Europe regarding this. So in terms of technology, we have good news relatively, but we should be able to transform our production so that with all the piping there is still some hydrogen left for us. That's important, but that is why we are here. Thank you very much. I think that we can start with the second point. Teresa, do you have a microphone somewhere? The second topic that we set up yesterday is the lack of the support of government, not just the financial support, but regarding human capital and capacities other than just at the Ministry of Industry and Trade. And when we talk about scaling, when there is no basis, I think this might be quite difficult. So I would like to pass the floor to Teresa Nislerová from Unipetrol, because she had a very interesting case study that she presented yesterday. Thank you. Minister, my name is Teresa Nislerová. I have been working for Unipetrol for the past 8 years, and I partly deal with hydrogen in my daily work. Maybe I'll start with figures first. First, we stated that in the Czech Republic we produce 100,000 tons of hydrogen, especially grey hydrogen, and out of this amount, 80,000 tons of hydrogen is being produced in Unipetrol out of waste products of oil. So this hydrogen is already here. It's not produced from natural gas. It's not being produced from waste from oil refineries, from residues. So this should be processed. This is a huge amount of grey hydrogen that's not being used for mobility so far. It's not being used for all the technologies that were mentioned here. We are mentioning technology companies and membranes that Petr Mervat just mentioned, membranes for fuel cells. And the goal is to use those fuel cells in vehicles. When the vehicles should operate, they need hydrogen. And us in Unipetrol, we are still interested in using grey hydrogen, but we also have a different project to produce green hydrogen using photovoltaic panels that should be placed around the premises in Litvinov on brownfields. And we also planned to install 26 megawatt electrolyzer. And together with this plan, we proposed a logistic measure linked to that, and Unipetrol has 420 filling stations in the Czech Republic, petrol stations. This is the largest network in the Czech Republic, and we suggested the use of hydrogen on those stations as well. I don't know what your opinion is. Should this be funded by private means only? This is not the case, or this is not common in the Western countries either. That is why we designed a project of IPCEI, so important project of common interest, and we entered a call of the Ministry of Industry and Trade in November 2020. There was an IPCEI call by the Ministry of Industry and Trade, and 11 companies could enter the call. And as a follow-up, only 2 companies submitted the pre-notification form in summer 2021, and only Iveco passed this procedure, and they should get their R&D funding for buses. Our company was not approved because our electrolyzer is too small, and European Commission said that they liked our project, that they really think that our project is eligible for support, could get the support, but under different rules for public support. And since May, we haven't heard any feedback from your ministry, whether your ministry is interested in supporting this project, whether there are some financial means allocated for this. And you talk about the National Recovery Plan, and this is a project that could help the market in the Czech Republic. We should say clearly that we are a company that's going to build up refueling stations, 22 refueling stations until 2030 with green hydrogen. So all stakeholders in this country would know that this plan is here, and we are going to develop this network, and the stakeholders could start with their follow-up plans. They could test buses, hydrogen buses, or any other technology. So this would be just a starting point. So I wanted to mention this great initiative and a lot of work from the past years. Unipetrol is a part of Purkyně Orlen Group. And of course, I wanted to promote this project by our mother company. And I can tell you that last week, European Commission approved public support for our mother company in Poland for a very similar project. So this is production of green hydrogen and a network of refueling stations. So this will be funded in Poland. And they approved about 500 million euro, the European Commission, only for Purkyně Orlen, for the development of those refueling stations and production of renewable hydrogen. I believe that we can find common ground together and that we will be able to implement something similar in the Czech Republic. Thank you.
Minister, could you provide an answer to this question? I'm thinking how to respond to this question, because I want to be polite. I know very well both Unipetrol and PKN Orlen. I was actually preparing the privatization project, but that's a long time ago. I'm very often in contact with management of Unipetrol and management of PKN Orlen in Poland. I cannot change the past, obviously. I even know what IPCEIs are. So if you submitted an IPCEI application, you filed it in 2020, I assume. Perhaps Babiš had a phone call with Macron and Macron wasn't interested, I'm not sure. The new application that was submitted by your owner was well accepted. Mrs. Mosca wrote me an email and I'll probably see her on Friday and I can talk to her and I can ask her to what extent we could use this Polish project that has been approved. This is a tendency that we are trying to change. Most IPCEIs were divided among France and Germany, and this is not in the interest of Europe. Each group can only be as strong as its weakest members. Therefore, Europe must be interested in the technology projects and in building a supply chain. It's impossible to concentrate all the major projects in large countries, and that's the solution that we are going to support. I haven't known anything specific about your project. So I haven't been asked to respond to this issue, and I have to talk to my subordinates about this. Let me, however, say that as regards to support to the development of petrol stations, whether you should not contact the Ministry of Transport, but I can definitely have a look at that, and we will make a pressure on the European Union and European Commission, because we want small countries to be considered as well, and we are going to build coalitions. I don't know what happened in 2020 and why only Iveco was accepted, but of course we know about the Iveco project. Thank you. Let me follow up on this because I would like to stay and discuss further this topic. How about the other colleagues? Have you all resolved this issue? Do you think that the support and communication are sufficient? Minister, you are now visiting the Ústí region, and together with the Moravia and Silesia and the Karlovy Vary region, we have some specific place in the EU funds. We have allocated several billion of Czech crowns for our projects. Yes, this is the money used for specific projects. However, if we don't have the certainty that we will be able to implement this project, then the regional permanent conference will take away these projects. We cannot persuade everyone that we will have hydrogen economy because the money needs to be spent by 2025. So if we have some elementary certainty that we will be produce hydrogen and that we will be able to use it, then we can go on. But if not, then all of the plans will have to be cancelled. These three regions are the only regions that have the money available. We have established the hydrogen platform, the hydrogen cluster, gathering all the companies interested in hydrogen economy, but we need a partner at the ministry that will create a large team of people. And all the forms of support should be facilitated and provided by this team. And I would like to appeal to you to help us in this aspect. Minister, are you planning to enlarge the technical capacities? Another question was whether you are planning to create a committee for coal areas. That means to dedicate more people, more time to these issues. This is a complicated situation. Yesterday we approved the budget, which has an enormous deficit of 295 billion Czech crowns. I can feel cognitive dissonance because this is the fourth year in a row when we have a budget deficit of the countries that we never wanted to compare with. On the other hand, we can feel what society thinks. They think that what we do, anything they do, is too late and too bad. On the other hand, there is an enormous pressure on reducing the number of state officials, especially at ministries. The next thing is the legacy of the previous government, which established support programs which are very demanding, and no one ever built some back office, and all these officials have to put up with this. Moreover, there are requirements for new subsidy schemes. And the funds for wages are limited. We have the Public Service Act, and what I can do in a business, which means if someone doesn't work well, you can agree with the employee, okay, let's find you another job that will be more suitable for you, or you will be dismissed. So this is impossible in public service, and this is linked to legislation. It means that if you dismiss someone, you have to pay this person for quite a long time. But I don't want to make excuses. I've always assumed responsibility, and I wanted to ensure that the teams that support changes have enough capacities and enough people. If I'm not mistaken, for the hydrogen agenda, we have quite a lot of people compared to other countries. And if we need to help the team, to enlarge the team, I will do it, definitely. But you say that the primary, the Minister of Industry and Trade, tried to tell me one thing that had to be cancelled because of insufficient capacities at the ministry. You say that you don't have a complex support programs and calls. It's not only about writing legislation, it's also about the approval proceedings in the Chamber of the Deputies. Look at what's going on in the Chamber of the Deputies. I'm not there. I only approve the acts that I submit, and for me, it's real suffering to be present in the Chamber of the Deputies. In fact, we do not propose acts because politicians accuse one another in the Chamber of the Deputies. So what I have learned are the specific items. What I'm most interested in are specific tasks. If you say that if we fail to do something by the end of next year, we will lose the money. That's important for me. We don't want to lose the money that is available. This is what might happen with the National Recovery Plan, because we may lose the money from the EU because we haven't prepared the plan well. We would not like to repeat this experience, and I will do my best to push hydrogen forward. Minister, let's look at the last block of questions or issues, which is integrating hydrogen into the Energy Act. I'm a lawyer, and let me just say that law is always behind the needs of society. I would also not approve what my colleague has said, that the regions have a sufficient amount of money. But as for the start of hydrogen economy, I would agree. We do have enough money in the Just Transition Fund and Modernization Fund. We have the necessary experts, so we might establish these teams, and then we would be able to regularly communicate with the Minister of Industry and Trade, Mr. Zemánek. I am the co-author of this point, so let me explain it. Yesterday, we saw presentations showing that hydrogen economy, especially green electrolyzers, are growing significantly, and in 2021, the installed power was 500 megawatts. This year, this should be 2 gigawatts, and the curve is still rising. So it's not about the composition of the ministry. We are trying to look forward. If we want to compete in this industry, if we want to support production of electrolyzers and their use in the Czech Republic, we need to change something. I fully agree. We need to strengthen the teams. But it's not only about the number of officials in these teams. It's all about the leaders willing to push things forward. If you have a competent leader that has a team of another 5 people, they can do tremendous things. I know that we have underestimated quite a lot of things. One of the points was insufficient cooperation with foreign countries. We could see it on the previous slide. Or insufficient participation in international projects. We gradually improved these things. We entered the European Union, and apart from Bulgarians, Romanians and V4, no one talked to us. And during several months, the rest of the countries started to treat us equally. And through the Czech Republic, they would like to become closer also to the convergent countries of Central and Eastern Europe. When Robert Habeck came here, it was the first visit of the German Minister of Foreign Affairs in the Czech Republic after 13 years, which is unbelievable because our border is the longest with Germany. We have a cross-border cooperation, but the cooperation with Germans and other countries is at top level, and we will soon see the results. I believe that over several months we establish the basis for future cooperation and that we will make progress. In future, we will also focus on strategic decisions, not only the immediate needs. Mr. Petzinger? Well, I think that my governor, the government of my region, would also like me to say that we don't think that we have enough money. But yes, we receive the support. Our region is going to learn from the progress in hydrogen economy. So I would like you to promote cooperation among various ministries. I know that you are listening to us now because you are the only representative of ministries, but I would like to promote interministerial cooperation. That's important. On the previous slide, we could see the last bullet point, and this is information from the territory, from the areas. If we perform a feasibility study, we can see that the figures don't match. We will fully support our colleagues from Moravia, Silesia and Ústí. We are close to Ústí, and we expect that there will be a leverage effect and that hydrogen economy will accelerate much faster in Karlovy Vary in future. Bohužel neslyšíme mikrofon. We have 15 minutes left, and I would like to open the topic that has been raised many times. Integration of hydrogen in the Energy Act.
Whether it is an energy, gas, or a part of hydrogen initiative. So the question is, what is your approach? Do you see room for such a change? Well, I'm not really sure how many acts of energy, how many amendments we already sent to the members of parliament when preparing the Energy Act. I can't remember really. So I wanted to join it to the topic of capping the prices, the energy prices. However, the government did not allow for this generous approach. And in this amendment, we have only renewable energy sources and the increased capacity without license from 10 to 50 kilowatt. And simplified approval procedure. That's it, because there is a huge demand for this. So this was approved yesterday by the government, and at the next meeting we should discuss it. We announced a program to support photovoltaic panels for companies, which was highly demanded. That was the most successful program so far. 4 billion of Czech crowns were gone immediately. So we increased the amount to 5 billion, and now we are going to increase it even further to 9 billion. So almost twice as much as the original amount. And there will be the next amendment regarding community financement, and it will be about the definition of energy community, sharing of energy that will be possible. And at the latest next week or the week after that is going to, well, we are going to announce this amendment, and if the definition of hydrogen as energy gas should be missing there in the amendment, I don't think it's missing actually. It is there. It is part of the amendment. The amendment is ready and is entering the legislative process now. My objective is that if the members of parliament and the Senate allows me to do that, I want the amendment to be valid on the 1st of January 2023. Is there any reason why someone should block this amendment? Well, just as in case of any legislative changes, when the changes are quite comprehensive, there are many things that can happen. First of all, interest groups and lobbyists get involved, and they try to enter some matters that they are missing. Then there are some amendment proposals that are quite often motivated only by the interests of one small group. This is what happens in the legislative process. And you really have to pay attention to that. You should see that the heterogeneity of this act should not be impacted by something that could cause problems in the future. However, under normal circumstances, in a normal situation, with the usual proceedings, we should be able to make it until January. The question is how many amendment proposals will there be, how many critical points there will be, so that we can approve the act on time. But of course there will be many participants of the entire approval proceedings, be it commercial chamber, the Association of Industry and Trade, other interest groups, other ministries such as Ministry of Environment, etc., etc. So if I understand it correctly, hydrogen will be an energy gas officially from the next year. So we can really count on that, right? That's great. Ladies and gentlemen, unless you want to react now, unless you want to respond immediately, well, we saw a weak support of wind energy power plants. This is also a part of a puzzle. We approved the percentage of revenues from wind power plants. Unfortunately, this is something that is connected to old projects, and the increase of support in the current situation when energy is so expensive that everyone earns money on energy, and we really need to keep as much money for new investments. So we think that this wasn't the current topic actually, but hydrogen in a transitory period, we will have to consider the support of this also regarding the energy prices, maybe a transitory support if we have enough money to do that. Patrick, you wanted to say something as well? I would like to ask the minister and the ministry regarding point 4. Maybe this sounds quite innocuous, but it may be one of the pillar stones, one of the cornerstones when people address us regarding photovoltaic power plants. Sometimes they are quite surprised that they need to enter the zone building procedure, and all of a sudden they need to acquire a building permit, and it takes time. They spend months really getting those permits. This must be really difficult, and the municipality must be willing to do that, to agree with this from the start. So those are just some minor issues, but altogether they pose a big problem. So I would really welcome a simplification of rules in this very difficult situation of industry. Well, of course, this is one of the methods. We could get inspired by Germany. They introduced those go zoning permit where you approve in advance where you could build something, and there is no complicated proceedings as a follow-up. But of course, when we take a look at the capacity of photovoltaic panels, in the government we saw some amendments even yesterday, and we discussed the protection of national parks zones which are being protected very closely, and the natural site protection also was interested in protecting some buildings. Then they proposed a different number, if this should be 50 or 100, or if the surface allowed could be up to 2,000 square meters, and on the rooftops it could be up to 800 square meters. And then you have to ask yourselves, is this your own production for your own consumption primarily, or is this something different already with such huge surfaces? I can perceive this myself, but the question is whether the big amendment that's going to deal with the new energy approach, it's going to be the usual amendment, and the usual proceedings will follow. Everyone can express their own opinions and anyone can comment on that, but I really believe that we will be able to make it on time, and on the 1st of January there will be an answer for us for the unresolved problems in the Czech Republic. Thank you for your response, Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to finish this discussion round. Unless there are any questions. Yes, okay, I can see a raised hand. Good morning, Ondra Soukup, Energetic. I have a question for Minister Sikela. Several times you mentioned that we should support nuclear energy sources followed or linked to hydrogen production, that we should also use those sources in the context of European Union, that we should really raise awareness regarding nuclear energy. And when we consider what the next decades in Czech energy sector will bring, whether renewable energy sources or completing nuclear blocks of our nuclear power plant, or transformation of the coal industry, which is almost 50% of our own energy production. I wanted to ask you how nuclear energy sources are going to be used for hydrogen production, because the high increase of electrification, electromobility also play a role in that. Thank you. Gentlemen, Minister. Well, we all know that hydrogen and its production, well, there are various production processes, but they use up a lot of electricity. Hydrogen production needs a lot of electricity, and we will never have offshore sources that are cheap, like Germans, for example, because they want to produce hydrogen from offshores and from sun, and they will export less. We will have to get used to that for the future. Cheap energy in the time of peak times that was brought from Germany on the market, which was almost for free. We won't get it anymore because Germans will need it for their own hydrogen production. So we won't have this possibility. And we don't have enough water. And we will never have enough water to produce our own energy. We don't have access to sea, so we can't do anything about that. And the only way how to get cheap energy to produce hydrogen, which comes to my mind, because even if we now accelerated the support of renewable energy sources, if we want to be energy sufficient, or self-sufficient, I mean, with the increased consumption, we still need to look for a different way, and I can't see any other way than nuclear energy, unless we want to purchase energy from other countries. So my idea is, if we manage for the future to change the taxonomy so that pink hydrogen is going to be at the same level as green hydrogen, or maybe very close to green hydrogen, to put it very simply, Well, nowadays we talk about the first modular reactor that could be located in southern Bohemia because it's logical to place it in a locality where we already have a nuclear power plant. But from Dukovany we want to have an allocation for Brno and the surroundings that might be even almost 500,000 inhabitants in the region that are dependent on heat from natural gas at the moment. And we need to build a pipeline from Dukovany to Brno so that it is acknowledged as a project that's low carbon. And we need to construct even in locations where we will have cheap energy sources. And in this inframarginal scale, nuclear energy regarding the price is not bad at all. It looks good, in fact. We have still 2 minutes left, so please ask quickly and we need to finish on time. Petr Trpí, Association of Industry and Trade. Yesterday we heard the topic or the thesis that hydrogen is being supported only marginally at this moment. I wanted to ask you if there is a vision to support it and to have hydrogen in the strategic document. Well, that's one of the issues where I could criticize the previous government or my predecessor. The concept was established in 2015, the energy concept, Act on Energy, and the intention was to update it regularly. I started working at the ministry on the 19th of December in 2021, and I found the same version of energy concept as in 2015. So this didn't change since 2015, and you are absolutely right. We need to update it. We need to update the energy concept. But regarding urgent problems, I think we should deal with the Act on Energy more to increase our energy security and set a limit to energy prices. This is our priority. But we are not forgetting the energy concept, the national energy concept. But you are absolutely right, it hasn't been updated since 2015, 7 years. And of course, many things have happened in the energy sector during the past 7 years, that's clear. I wanted to pass the floor to the colleague who hasn't asked a question, but you keep holding the microphone, huh? Well, it got to me in the end, the microphone. I think that we will face huge problems, us in the energy sector, regarding the transition, and the additional energy won't be left for hydrogen. This is not funny at all. We will have very difficult times in the next 20 years. Thank you for the comment. And the last quick question.
Nesmí to svítit. Když to svítí, tak to nefunguje.
If the mark is lit up, it will not work. Láďa Smrš, Cylinders Holding. One idea how to improve the economics of hydrogen production, because the Modernization Fund supports production of hydrogen using photovoltaics. And the European Commission requires that the electrolyzers connected to photovoltaics cannot be connected to CHEPs, to the transmission grid. So what would help this economy is the possibility to receive money from CHEPs so that they can level the peaks. The more photovoltaics we install, the greater volatility of the grid. If we enter into negotiations with the European Commission in this aspect, this might really help. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this 1 hour of discussion. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Eva. Thank you, gentlemen. Let me thank you for the questions, and I could feel that you understand the barriers, and I assume that our goal is to cooperate in finding solutions for these barriers. Thank you very much, and let's move on.
Není pauza. Není.
No, there is no break. There's no coffee break.
Asi tak za 10 minut pauza, jo? Na kafe rychlý.
So yes, we do. There will be a 10-minute coffee break, and then please come back.
Dámy a pánové, drazí
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, after a short coffee break, let's move on. I understand that you needed a coffee break to be able to talk about the interesting things that we have discussed. There will be one session before lunch, and there will be also some workshops in the afternoon. The first guest of this session is going to be Gabriela Nekolová, chairwoman of the Economic and Social Council of the Ústí region. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for the floor. If you allow me, I will invite my colleague, Karel Ťachý, RIS3 expert for the hydrogen area and for the Ústí region, who will give this presentation with me. On behalf of the Economic and Social Council of the Ústí region, which coordinates the activities of the hydrogen platform, I would like to use this opportunity and to present the hydrogen strategy of the Ústí region as the primary document serving the development of hydrogen in our region. It was the first strategy approved at the Regional Council. It was approved on the 6th of April this year, and it defines the objectives that we would like to achieve through large cooperation with various stakeholders. But before talking about the strategy in detail, let's provide a context for the support of hydrogen economy in our regions. The motivating factors for developing hydrogen are obvious. They have been already discussed. I'm not going to repeat them, but they have become even more significant by the Green Deal and the war conflict in Ukraine. The Ústí region has long-term prerequisites and conditions and the necessary know-how for developing hydrogen. Minister also said that we have had a history of hydrogen production since the 19th century, so I'm not going to repeat it, but we are at a university, and I can say that we are ready to further extend this know-how and experience, and we want to support universities as well as R&D in our region. Another specific aspect that we and our other core regions is a suitable location for development of renewable energy sources. This especially applies to the area created by regeneration of the sites where mining activities were terminated. The system of hydrogen economy is supported at various levels in our region. The initiator of this support were our colleagues from the Economic and Social Council of the Ústí region. We created an initiating initiative in 2018, which then transformed into a large partnership. This partnership adopted a memorandum of the hydrogen economy, and we created the hydrogen platform in 2018. We very much appreciate that the regional authority supports this initiative, and it represents the Ústí region in various initiatives at the international level. And we very much appreciate this cooperation because it presents many opportunities for cooperation with foreign countries. Thanks to the support of the regional council, hydrogen is one of the primary objectives in the Ústí strategy. Karel Tichý is the developer of the RIS3 in the area of hydrogen, and this activity is going to be fully supported in future as well. It is our common goal to use the tools that are available for development of hydrogen economy and renewable energy sources, for example, Modernization Fund, Just Transition Fund, and other funds. I'm happy to say that the Ústí region is fully ready for development of hydrogen. We have dozens of projects that are being prepared, and we have the necessary investments into technologies, academia, universities, R&D. And as you could see, we try to identify the barriers to this development, the barriers that impede our efforts in implementation of our strategy. I have emphasized cooperation. It is shown on this slide. Let me repeat that we cooperate with politicians of the region, which is very important, but we have established partnerships within the hydrogen platform, and we cooperate with experts who gather at the so-called round tables and who prepare the inputs that are then translated into the hydrogen economy of the Ústí region. And my colleague is now going to speak about the strategy as such. Good morning once again. It is a strategy. It's not something you would like to read before sleeping. But it is a document with very clear structure that you can see on the slide. There is transparent logic in the structure. We didn't want to be boring in our strategy, and we wanted this strategy to be inspiring also for colleagues at the national or European levels. The strategy includes all of the important points. So first of all, there is some introduction where we describe our general goals. We also present our mission and visions, which are then presented from A to H. We also identified a number of barriers, and if we improve what we have communicated to Minister, then it will be much easier for us. Strategies are often drafted and then put into a shelf, into a drawer. So we wanted to identify also some short-term objectives. And I will tell you more later on. We defined the general vision for the Ústí region in the area of hydrogen. This vision is for the year 2050. This is the year in which Europe should achieve climate neutrality. I'm not going to read this vision. It is based on successful energy transition, which is a major challenge. And it will be a challenge for us in the upcoming months and years. However, we believe that hydrogen can be the way forward. We defined objectives in our strategy. There are a lot of these objectives defined in the strategy. You can download the strategy. It is available on the website of the Economic and Social Council of the Ústí region, for example. Let me just mention several of these objectives. In production, we would like to have the capacities to produce up to 20,000 tons of hydrogen per year by 2030, which is highly ambitious. But at the same time, you heard yesterday from the presentation of Plug Power that there are many changes going on. The development is very fast. And we believe that there will be changes in this area. And you always have to reach your consumers. That's why the area of distribution is very important. In 2030, the primary way of distribution of hydrogen will be transportation in pressure containers, pressure bottles, which is something quite new, but we want to accelerate this development. I could also speak about hydrogen in the energy sector, in industry, but we have already heard quite a lot about this. We also intend to extend the application of hydrogen in mobility and buildings. Yesterday we saw a project of the transport company of Ústí, and we perform analysis of absorption capacities. And we can see great interest in investments into this area. We are having a conference at the university. We are aware of the fact that we need experts for this field. I appreciated very much the presentation of Mr. Bozek yesterday. We can't do this without experts. And we want to implement projects within the Just Transition Fund, and we want to enlarge the curricula and to also propose hydrogen economy curricula. We believe that our approach and our cooperation within the platform is appreciated and welcome at the national level. This is what we are going to do in future as well. Management of development of the regional hydrogen system. And we also appreciate support of colleagues from the Karlovy Vary and Moravia-Silesia regions. During yesterday's conference, we could see how important international cooperation is for implementation of common sense projects with international reach. We could see presentations of colleagues from Poland, Germany, and Spain. And I'm going to pass the floor again to Gabina.
I mentioned that during the preparation of the strategy that was described by Karel right now, we had the opportunity to meet with colleagues with many other organizations and regions and take a look at the preparation of their projects. That is why we can say that within our region there are some partnerships emerging in the development of hydrogen. So they are developing right now, and as you can see it on the map, they cover all the parts of our region. We will do our best to connect those points, and we hope that this activity is going to develop and spread all over our region. In the region of Ústí, you heard that yesterday, the project of the municipality of Ústí in cooperation with Purkyně. And you heard about the problems related to that as well. And of course, we also try to cooperate here and help. We cooperate with the university that we are at. We have a problem of GET Center, which is a strategic project within the Just Transformation program. In the region of Most, you will have the opportunity today to hear the intentions or plans of Seven Energy and Unipetrol. The representatives of Unipetrol already presented the possibilities of development of hydrogen, and you will hear about the involvement of the town of Most, where there is a great potential to build strong hydrogen partnerships. And I could go on like this, but I would spend a lot of time mentioning this, and this is not really our objective today. What are our steps until 2025? We want to develop hydrogen management even further and connect it to financement within international partnerships. We want to help develop those activities in development spots. The next step is also the realization hydrogen plan for the region of Ústí within the hydrogen platform. So far, we haven't been able to prepare this strategic document because, as we all perceive it, we haven't had finite regulations to stipulate this document. So as soon as the regulations and as soon as the instructions are clear and completed, we will be able to launch this strategic document. Of course, we know that it needs to be updated and amended regularly. Regarding the hydrogen strategy of the Ústí region, you can see the entire roadmap that we set up. Here you can see it on the slide. This is a scheme, a very simplified scheme, in fact, of the entire journey that we want to continue until 2030. I would like to thank all the members of the hydrogen platform that cooperated on the setup of the hydrogen strategy. You can see their names and the names of the organizations on this slide. You helped us create this very strategic document that's going to help us on our further way. I would also like to thank you to all colleagues. Let's not lose the momentum that hydrogen has in our region. And I hope that until the end of November, we should meet again with the hydrogen platform members. Thank you very much. Thank you, the interpreters. Neither me nor Gabina spoke very slowly, so thank you for translating all this, and see you later. We would also like to thank you, and now we pass the floor to Daniel Minařík, the director of the Business Development Agency of the chairman of Moravian Silesian Hydrogen Cluster. I will be very brief today. Usually I'm not, of course, you know me. Ladies and gentlemen, I greet you again. I have again the honor to be on this stage, and now my topic concerns regional activities that support hydrogen technologies in the involved regions. Let's start with a joke, maybe, or with a funny story, maybe. How it all started, you probably heard that the first initiative that was related to the launch of new projects needed a basis. They needed a cooperation, at least at the level of our region and the town of Ostrava. We were the initiators of those first initiatives, of those first projects, and we established many memorandums that formed hydrogen activities and hydrogen platform with the end product of the Moravian Silesian Hydrogen Cluster. That was the goal. You can see the pictures here. Those are our leaders and people who keep us moving, who really keep us working very intensively. Regarding all our intentions and all our ideas that we came up with. in both municipalities, on both levels of decision making in the region of Moravia and Silesia that are available, together with the municipality of Ostrava, which is the capital city of our region, as well as the carrier of special funding, for example, ITI. So the so-called hydrogen valley of the Moravian Silesian region. What are the objectives? Those are standard ideas that should help hydrogen technologies to create unified chains. They do not have to be complete, those chains, but there should be a certain line that covers the production and transfer as well as the end consumption of hydrogen. Of course, there are many individual projects that follow up on each other, or at least their aim is to restructure the industry, and I hope we are going to reach that stage sometime. The main motivation here is, and of course we are well aware of that, are the pilot projects and connection of projects, the effort to catch up with Western countries, because in the application of hydrogen technologies we lost time, we lost decades. So we want to jump on the train which is already moving, and we want to really start serious investment projects. And compared to the activity in Western countries that were actually implemented as research projects, but now we want to get back to serious investment projects and involve the research level as well, so that the generation of people that we need to prepare and educate, so that they are able to touch concrete applications that will be available in our region. The portfolio of institutions, business partners in our region is very wide, starting with companies that develop hydrogen applications step by step, up to the industry sector that expects the delivery for its own purposes without being actively involved in developing of the applications. I think that we reached the entire region. We did not forget any part of our region, any county. And when we want to get from the individual applications that present a pilot project, well, typical example is a refueling station. And of course we want to reach a state that might be a dream right now, hydrogen economy. But we introduced the expression hydrogen valley, which should show that it is not just about individual application of hydrogen technologies. 2 weeks ago, we officially inscribed the Moravian Silesian hydrogen cluster in the register. And many of its future members are present here. I can see you. So we welcome the activities of other stakeholders as well, who would probably be happy if they could implement their own activities in Moravian Silesian region. So please ask for our assistance. And we heard it from the public as well. There was a question that we heard yesterday about the hydrogen platform, whether the platform would be able to provide services of the design management, or project management. We heard that there is no capacity for that, but on the contrary, the Moravian Silesian cluster will do its best to be able to provide such a capacity for its partners. Not just the expertise, but of course also the support of projects, including providing sources of funding. What is the main mission? Let's put it very clearly in 3 ideas. Hydrogen cluster is a discussion arena for us. This is a place where partners and stakeholders should discuss what their expectations are and in what relations they would like to do business together. Maybe it is a trivial thought because, well, it might seem so, but we still think it's about business interests among partners. However, we think that the success of the projects won't be long-term and efficient unless we discuss the initial conditions and the means of support at the beginning. What the Moravian Silesian hydrogen cluster needs to face, but also the hydrogen platform in Ústí, is the creation or the description of the entire chains where external financing enters with their own conditions. And we want to inform the stakeholders who don't know yet that hydrogen is a topic for them. They don't know that yet. We want to motivate those stakeholders to take the step into the unknown area and start considering hydrogen. Of course, we live in a dynamic time, and in the area of energy, there are many companies who haven't considered hydrogen yet, and they might be skeptical, of course. They don't have their own capacity to consider hydrogen. And we, our cluster, our platform, would like to provide this capacity to them.
The main task for us, the Moravian Silesian Hydrogen Cluster, is to formulate special support scheme that is supported by the region from the operational program Just Transition Fund. Money has been allocated to the so-called network solutions. That means comprehensive projects. The projects will be submitted and you can see the budget for these hydrogen projects, which is 1,000 million Czech crowns. The problem is with the entire supply chains which are not eligible through the current operational programs. To put it simple, we should focus mainly on distribution and transportation of hydrogen, and we would like to develop these relationships, for example, to organize a regional stock exchange. The second area of support, apart from the funding from OPJT or the region, is the budget of the statutory city of Ostrava, regional territorial investments. These are similar funds, but these funds are not intended for hard investments. These funds are intended, for example, for the purchase of hydrogen-fueled vehicles, but mainly these funds are used for softer activities, for example, support to education. What was the history of hydrogen in Ostrava? Where did we get hydrogen? I often say that it was about 15 years ago. The first activities were linked to hydrogen mobility. There were some projects for experimental vehicles where we cooperated with the Košice University, with our colleagues from Slovakia. Quite recently, we followed up on this cooperation. These activities further developed until the state of the current projects. In the history, these projects focused on electromobility, then there were projects for stationary mobility, and the ENET Center has the highest power in their laboratories of dozens or even hundreds of kilowatts of testing capacity. For example, in the area of fuel cells and electrolyzers. Ostrava Technologies focused also on the area of the use of products of pyrolysis. What is the future of research and development in hydrogen in Ostrava? I will talk about that in a later session, but this is a trailer for you. This is a picture showing the infrastructure that we are developing for hydrogen production in the Moravian and Silesian region. Yesterday, we spoke a little bit about specific projects that had been launched. Let me recap on this. These were mainly projects of refueling station, a public hydrogen filling station, which is a project aiming at 1 ton of hydrogen per day. We are aiming at local production of green hydrogen, and this project is still running. As I said yesterday, there is a high price that has been tendered, and it was decided that it has to be refinanced from the operational program Transport, and this public procurement will have to be tendered again. There has been a pilot project for the use of hydrogen in public buses, which is a project for 20 public vehicles. The project also includes building of the necessary infrastructure. The region selects its partners in the area of regional transportation. There will be more and more tenders launched for at least 20 hydrogen vehicles, which should operate in 2025 and 2026. The general objective is to use hydrogen mobility to the maximum. Of course, there are certain limitations because of the energy security and transport, public transport. But in general, we would like to have up to 500 hydrogen buses by 2032. But it depends on the overall development linked to the building of the filling infrastructure. What does it mean? 10 to 15 tons of hydrogen could be used daily for regional transportation. In the area of transport, we identified specific lines where hydrogen trains could be used. This is again a pilot project. To give you an idea of the area, there are more types of rail transport, by which I mean different frequencies, different lines. and we made analysis of the daily consumption of hydrogen in these trains, which are dozens of kilos, up to 2 tons of hydrogen. And our plans of development and our discussions with partners have to take this into consideration when building the infrastructure for hydrogen. Another area where we have defined specific objectives is a different area. I think that we heard about 2 million tons of hydrogen production in Ústí. Moravia also has its own hydrogen production. Mostly this is grey hydrogen. We would like to cooperate with one local company in renovation of this activity, and we would like to turn this into purely green hydrogen. This would mean 42 tons of hydrogen per day. And if we have 2,500 megawatt hours per day, this would really boost the current networks supplying the Ostrava region. So it's not only about the decision regarding the use of the technology. And icing on the cake, if you look at hydrogen, is how to make steel production greener. I have disclosed some figures. And if we speak about transition of our metallurgical capacity, which are 2 companies operating in this segment, in steel production, production of raw iron, this would be 330,000 tons per year. If this is our objective, then this is the exaggerated figure, but you will probably understand that such a large transition of the industry will have to be done in stages. But if we only implement 10% of the technology, it would be, let's say, 25% of the furnaces. We would again achieve enormous figures. And the concept of transition of regional and city transportation to hydrogen would be marginal. Again, you can see the electricity demand calculated based on the electricity supply to these 2 companies. There is more and more coming. As I have said, everyone is welcome in the Moravian and Silesian region. We have designed a concept for the network solutions. This is the main message of my presentation. We would like to be able, by the end of this year or at the beginning of the first quarter of next year, to submit these strategies and to catch up with the Ústí strategy. Thank you for your attention. And I believe that in this fight between hydrogen and CO2, we know who the winner will be. Well, the wind power plant seems to be running out of energy. Well, thank you for your attention. We could see very nice examples of initiatives. Let me now invite the next guest, Patrik Pitzinger, Councillor of the Karlovy Vary region, who will be the next speaker. Good morning, thanks for the floor. You can see that I have no presentation because competing with our colleagues from Ústí and from Arabia Silesia in the area of hydrogen is complicated. But we would be the winner in the area of the spa industry. We had a discussion with Minister and I also showed it to you when presenting the transformation plan. This will be the period when we are going to learn lessons from our colleagues from Ústí. We support our colleagues in their activities. It doesn't mean that hydrogen is not a hot topic in Karlovy Vary. We have a large mining company in our region, so we very much focused on the termination and phasing out of these activities, but we know that hydrogen is one of the topics that needs to be supported. And this is the role of the Karlovy Vary region, because if we don't support them, we will not be successful and prosperous. And I would like to leave the floor to Vlastimil Veselý from the Business Development Agency of Karlovy Vary region. You could see what are the areas that have been already developed, that are well advanced, and you will be able to see what was the journey of Karlovy Vary, because we are using the journey of the petrochemical industry together with Setomer and with other companies with the support of Czech Invest. And this is the time when we want to choose the right journey forward, and we want to know where we should invest the money when we speak about hydrogen. I could give you a long presentation, but this is the main message. Let's look at the beginnings and at how it will all start in the Karlovy Vary region, and I'm passing the floor to my colleague Vlastimil Veselý, Director of Business Development Agency of Karlovy Vary region. I'm sure that he has prepared many pictures for you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for the opening word. I will try to follow up on my pre-speaker. Thank you for the opportunity to present the beginning of our initiative, as was rightly described. I would like to describe the potential of industry in the region of Karlovy Vary, and it involves hydrogen a bit as well. So I hope I have some information for you that might be interesting. Let me mention several key points regarding our agency, the Agency of Business Development of Karlovy Vary region. We were established in 2010, and we are a contribution-based institution. There are 3 pillars of activities: innovation, business environment, human resources, and education. We want to develop our region even further. So we are something like the innovation center in Ústí. Our function is very similar. You can see the list of main activities of our agency. We want to communicate with our surroundings, with the business sphere, research institutions, schools, universities, because, of course, we want to reach any potential stakeholders, and we want to involve villages, municipalities as well. And we prepare, for example, innovation vouchers, creative vouchers, and assistant vouchers to support various stakeholders. We are also describing the innovation surroundings and potential, and within Industry 4.0 we follow the current trends on the labor market. We are able to provide some solutions for projects or education within specific segments or areas. When we talk about education of students, our aim is to transfer experience from the business sector to students and pupils and to spread awareness about the industry sector in the region of Karlovy Vary and educate future entrepreneurs. We also prepared some creative activities and creative education, creative upbringing of potential talents. We also focus on schools, and this is not possible without workshops, platforms, events that we organize in order to keep in touch with our region, in order to communicate. At the same time, we also provide a scale of investment opportunities in our region. We have a website regarding that, and we also communicate with possible investors. You can see the website that's mentioned here on the slide, Žijeme regionem, we live our region. So this is a campaign that we launched 4 years ago, and it should strengthen the relations of our citizens and the region they live in. We want to inspire them and show them various opportunities, positive examples. And this is something that helps us a lot. And then, of course, we implement projects which are very interesting, for example, Smart Accelerator, metropolitan regions. What is the main potential of the region of Karlovy Vary? In the past 10 years, we mainly supported industry sectors that played the main role in our region. Those are traditional fields, for example, china production, glass production, and ceramics. There is also the spa industry, which is very present, tourism, technical areas. And we got involved in the transformation of our region. We saw that it's necessary to transform chemical industry and energy sector. This has several reasons. There are companies that process brown coal or they extract brown coals, and they realize that they need to change their way of thinking. The time has changed, and they must change as well. We move towards green energy. We heard that several times today. But of course, we perceive the trends in our society. We see what the European Union launched, for example, Green Deal and other activities. At the same time, there are two big companies, Sintomer AS in Sokolov, which is a big company in the town of Sokolov, and the other energy company is the Sokolovská uhelná company. And those two companies came up with the idea to support chemical industry. The councillor has already mentioned it. We got the inspiration from the region of Ústí because we saw that the Ústí region already had a study for 4 years, and we could get inspiration from them. And we thought it might be interesting for our region as well. The companies that we are in touch with realize the potential for the future, the potential of this transformation. There are about 476 entities in the chemical industry, and altogether 7,000 people employed in chemical industry. So in cooperation with the region of Karlovy Vary, we wanted to investigate the potential for the future in the connection of chemical industry and energy sector. That was our idea. We want to establish a study that would like to focus on this goal. Within this study, we want to describe trends in the world, trends in the European Union or in Europe in general, trends in the Czech Republic and in our region regarding chemical industry and energy sector. What are the priorities? What are the companies that play the main role? And at the same time, we want to describe the industry in detail. Based on the definition that you can see behind me, you see that there are 5 main topics that we would like to describe. This is hydrogen and hydrogen technologies, energy, green chemistry, waste management, and circular economy. We would like to see when the entity that's going to prepare this study would describe in detail those sectors and their possibilities, their potential, and maybe even verify their ideas, their concepts, if the companies are willing to share this information. And maybe we could propose some possibilities, opportunities for development in our region. What do we expect to gain? We think that the benefits of the study could be the verification of our various ideas or inspiration for private companies and business in general, maybe an inspiration for some change in education, in high school or universities. It could serve as inspiration for research and development as well as innovations. Maybe some innovations that work well in other regions could be adopted in our region as well. We want to know who we want to support, what organizations, what other entities should be supported. And of course, we are not alone in our region. There is the Commercial Chamber, Czech Invest, primary schools. There are various possibilities how to support our industry. And in the end, there should be a study, foresight study, future of the chemistry industry in the region of Karlovy Vary, which could be very beneficial for many stakeholders, many interested parties. Now we are preparing the application, the purpose of the study, and we think that at the beginning of the next year, this study could be completed if everything goes well. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions regarding my presentation, I will be happy to answer them. Thank you, and you can stay here with us. There is one question indeed. Is there any initiative in the Karlovy Vary region to use geothermic resources? There is potential energy source. So what is your approach to geothermic sources? Well, of course, we know that there is some potential, but I can't really answer that specifically. What company could describe this potential in detail? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we took up more time than expected. Sorry for that, but we still have enough time to have lunch and to meet for the afternoon workshops. Please take lunch next to, in the building opposite. You will get a meal voucher in the cafeteria. Enjoy your meal, and we will meet again.